Welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is 𝐶𝐿.
My name's Sawyer.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Muscles by Brussels Radio. No, we're not in Brussels. Yes, Sawyer and I feel like we were doing this just 24 hours ago because we were. And yet I get even more time with you getting to talk about some really cool stuff. What am I supposed to say right now? What's been going on since yesterday? What happened?
Yeah,
Any
not, not a whole lot since yesterday, but I mean, little update on us. We're in Washington State and we're trying to get pre-approved for a home loan. We're trying to look around for some places. So it's pretty cool out here. I mean, we're excited about that. It feels like a nice little project to work on, distraction from what's going on in the bigger, broader world. So that's what's going on in my little world, my neck of the woods.
Have you discussed this with your dog yet, and how do they feel about it?
Oh man, he's so excited to get out of the van. I think he's we've been living in this van on and off for like 6 years. It'll be 6 years in November, and I think maybe just as he gets older or something, I don't know. But he does not love being in the van. Or maybe he just got spoiled this last time around because he had like a whole yard and all that stuff. And so now we have to take him out, 5, 6, 7 times a day for him to not hate it in here. So we're like, okay, well maybe he just needs a house. Maybe that's the deal.
And should you wind up staying at home, having a home base, land, so
hmm
to speak, as opposed to traveling and parking,
Yeah.
do you think you'll still wind up traveling somewhat often?
Oh yeah. I think we'll probably do different big excursions, and probably in the weather months that we don't want to be here anyway, or that we're, whatever it works out to be. But yeah, I think we're still going to do a lot of traveling in the van. And I'm honestly of the opinion that we're going to have some kind of adventure vehicle at any given time. So once this thing goes kaput, maybe we'll build out a bus or something like that. I don't know, but I love this lifestyle and I don't plan on like fully stopping ever.
Okay, got it. So I'm on the plane when I travel, and you're just going to keep driving all over the place. I can't see. Well, we'll see what happens, but I hope that you keep traveling because
I hope so
I'll
too.
have to live vicariously through you like that. But that
Well,
is,
if
yeah, what?
yeah, I was gonna say if we build a bus, it'd be cool to have like a vegan strong, get together. Or like if we did like a traveling thing where we all traveled there together, that would be cool too. I don't know. But I just think it'd be so cool to like travel with a bunch of vegan athletes or the vegan proteins team at least
Something
to
like that
somewhere. It'd
exist
be a cool.
yet?
I don't know. I don't know. It could be a fun thing though. Like what if we went from, Boston area to, I don't know, into Canada or something together.
That's
That'd be
it.
fun.
We're putting this out into the universe, and someone's going to steal this idea. Please do steal the idea and then invite us on your bus so we can all
Yeah,
be
that'd be
happy together
great.
traveling. Yeah. Okay. Well, you make that happen, and I will be the first. I will take the front seat. I'm
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you drive this time.
I can't drive big vehicles. I'm sorry.
Oh
Oh
man.
gosh. Anyways,
But
this is obviously not what we came here to talk about today.
no.
We came here to talk about burnout. So,
Mhm.
in your work, what do you think burnout is? Like, how do you see that? Like, what is before we even start to get into what we actually want to do, is just talk about how to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess to define it, it would be like an imbalance that is more exhausting than it is recharging for an extended period of time. Like people can deal with that kind of like overreach, like with training, they can deal with like overreach here and there. But if it's persistently overreaching and you're just not recovering enough in between, then you're just going to come back weaker and more fatigued and more fatigued. And that can happen in anything that stresses you out, that demands more of you than it recharges you. And I always tell people like if your production demands, if your stress demands come up, your recovery has to come up too. And if there's an imbalance played out over several weeks or months, you're just going to become more and more, accommodate it if you don't rebalance it.
I feel like the hardest thing to do, not for all, but for some, is to admit that they are experiencing burnout because it's literally saying what I'm doing needs to change. And then getting to that point is very hard for
hmm
some. What I've seen is some people refuse to admit it, and others can't stop talking about it, but they're unable to do anything about it, which I don't know which one is worse,
Yeah.
honestly. I know that, honestly, despite and regardless of how people feel, the outcome is still the same. Their health suffers mentally and physically. They get stuck in a pattern that they cannot change. Dare I use the word bad? I wouldn't if I was speaking to a client. The bad habits repeat themselves. they feel lost, helpless, hopeless, and they're literally beating their head against the wall. And even if however they frame things after the fact, they're left with results that are subpar, or they're on the decline.
Mhm.
And it's how do you so okay. So we talked about what burnout is, right? Let's think about, I don't know, do you want to give me some examples, maybe? Some examples of different kinds of scenarios you've seen for people who are
Sure.
burning
Yeah.
the candle at both ends and burning
Yeah.
out?
Yeah. I mean, I'll use myself as an example so that I'm not calling anybody out. When I was a lawyer and working 7 a.m., leaving the house at 7 a.m. and then coming back home by 7 p.m. because I was working out because I would hit traffic if I left right from work. So it was like 12-hour days, not being at the home and not resting. And then doing it all again 5 times a week. I mean, it was getting to the point where I was calling in sick just because I needed a moment to breathe and the weekends were not cutting it. There was just a massive imbalance in my life. And there's been jobs even since then where there's just meeting after meeting or thing after thing. And by the end of a long day, you're like, whoa, that just went by like that. But it was just, I didn't get a second to breathe or eat or take care of myself. And then you string enough days together like that, and all of a sudden you're like, I haven't worked out, I haven't showered, I haven't, you know what I mean? So stuff like that can pile up. And I think everybody kind of knows that feeling. The question is, what do you do about it once you realize, oh, I'm in one of these like unsustainable loops and there's no end in sight. It happens to you if you've ever had it.
Mm-hmm. And I'll fill in some of the blanks
Hmm.
because you're a little bit choppy, but I can follow this conversation. Hopefully, y'all can too
Okay.
out there. And then the sad part is you can look back, I bet, at what you were doing and say, in hindsight, I would have been able to reverse engineer. In hindsight, you're reverse engineering, I would guess, if I were you, this is what I would be doing. This is how I would play it out. I would still get the same outcome and I would have taken care of myself in this way. I would have done things differently in this way. Because I feel like the easy excuse is just be like, well, there are so many hours in the day. I can only stress adapt and get as
Hmm.
efficient as I can with said time. I have
Hmm.
to finish what I started. There's no other option here. And I'll deal with the consequences later, right?
Hmm.
And you just basically are like, well, this is what it takes. And I suppose with that logic, you can say, okay, well, I'm preparing to, as I button things up with whatever is burning me out right now, and I'm fully aware of it, I'll address it further. So it's not a long-term chronic issue. As a
Hmm.
coach, where my brain goes is how can I help that support that person and help them get to a place where they're not going to experience that long term, well, they haven't gotten the outcome they're looking for yet while they're experiencing burnout. That's what I think about, right? Because someone who
Yeah.
comes to us, usually they're doing several things well and right, but they can't seem to put it all together, right? We talk about balance and flexibility and being healthy, but then someone comes to us and we're like, oh no, we're still going to push you. We're still going to get you to be your best. We're just going to do it in the healthiest way possible. And P.S., your health and fitness are going to be a priority. There's no way that
Mhm.
your health and fitness cannot be like the top priority. Taking care of yourself.
Mhm.
I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what the answer is right now, but we're going to fix your burnout. And because it's a part of the process of getting you the result you're looking for. Honestly, full transparency, it doesn't go down that way all the time, but I feel like that's the ideal. That's the goal.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it is work. It's work that takes up the lion's share. And it's okay if there are seasons like, everybody's kind of got a busy season at work, I think. But if it's just persistent for an undefined amount of time, first of all, if you're not in control of the flow of work, then I think the first step to getting out of that is being very communicative with your superiors and saying, look, this is how I feel right now. Because any like emotionally intelligent manager or boss or whatever will know, oh, this is not something I can ignore, especially if it's not just a fleeting thing, it's 1 week, you know what I mean? If it's something that's chronic and it's something that's come up now a couple different times, I need to take it seriously or I will be pushing my people closer and closer to burnout, and then we're gonna have a staffing crisis basically at some point. So, I think there's many other ways too. It's like you're responsible, even if you're not in control of the thing that's draining you, like it's something outside of your control that you can really, affect. You have to find some way of communicating or addressing the problem before it just reaches a boiling point and you cannot cope anymore. I think that's step one is you need to be communicative or you have to try to manage if you're in control of the variable, the
Often
thing
you're
that's
not
taking.
though.
Yeah, it's
And
true. It's
that I think is the hardest part. How do you minimize your risk of anxiety? How do you focus on the things that don't feel good to focus on, even though you know in your heart that you'll feel better, you'll have better energy. And that's where those simple, practical things can come into play, like focusing on what your sleep hygiene. People let their sleep go before anything. It's so
you
hard
know
to
what's
to,
interesting
to
about
help someone with
sleep?
that.
Yeah, you know what's so interesting about sleep is that I
Hmm.
found while coaching people that there is just an amount of downtime, not sleep time, but downtime that people want to have each day. And so if their day is 90% full with like work and things that they are like a laundry list of responsibilities, people will stay up just to have downtime. And so it'll cut into their sleep time. And then, you know what I mean? So everything gets pushed back, but they still need that downtime. So I think people will kind of in their heads, they'll be like, well, I'll just do less downtime. And maybe they do, but I think pretty much everybody at some point recognizes, oh, I just need to do nothing a little for at least part of the day. And I think we need to like respect that. And maybe it's just one day a week or something. I don't know. Could be different for different people. I think learning about yourself and how much downtime you actually need is probably a part of the equation that a lot of people kind of glance over, in my opinion.
Oh, totally. I'm just thinking of saying, I'm gonna hire you, Sawyer. I'm gonna hire you as my coach. You can tell me to do nothing.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying,
You're right,
but I
though.
am
No,
saying
of
that there
course not.
needs to be some
Mhm.
like, breathing room in your day so that you're not feeling like, oh, I open my eyes, it's a bunch of responsibilities, then I close my eyes. I think everybody kind of wants some space in there to enjoy their day, even if it's a busy day, because I think just as humans, we need some points of the day, some short-term things to look forward to. We can't just be completely eyes fixed on the horizon creatures all the time. You know what I mean? So.
I do know exactly what you mean. I'm commiserating. I'm just teasing a little bit because it's fun too, because I don't get to hang out
Yeah.
with you often, and I wish that we got to
That's
do this more
fair.
often. So,
That's fair.
but yeah, it's not an easy habit to break either. Taking excess time, not truly enjoying it and calling it decompressing and downtime, and then feeling guilty all the while. And then before you know it, you're in this like 24-hour revolving cycle where you don't feel quite right and you're not experiencing good quality of life because your habits aren't healthy and your mental health is in the
Yeah.
crapper. So, and it's pretty common amongst those who are looking for that space, if you will, where they're literally like, this is time. Like
Yeah.
for me personally, it's little tiny pockets throughout the day. You know, if I'm stopping for 5 minutes instead of thinking how I can be productive and taking stock of how I can be productive, I'm with my puzzle for 5 minutes. I'm
Yeah.
putting a couple pieces on, or I'm putting a controller in my hand
Yeah.
and I'm playing 15 minutes worth of a video game.
Yes.
If I can't have a
Yes.
good pocket of time, if so, put it this way. Let's say you have a family of, you got your nuclear family,
Uh-huh.
or let's say you have your business that you run and manage, or let's say you have a crisis that's going on in your life that's fresh and raw, or that hasn't, it's uncertain. There is that shoe waiting to drop, whether you care to admit it or not, that you can feel that way, and also the actual risk. And maybe that 1 hour of time that you usually have, or those 3 hours of time, whatever it is, maybe that time might disappear. If it disappears, what have you done during the day to have little sanity checks with yourself, to find ways to say, hey, I'm still finding ways to take care of myself and feel like I'm just taking space and time for myself throughout the day. So to me, that's what I think about because we all experience trauma. We all have life does life and we all experience crises. We all wind up being overworked at one point or another. We all take on more than we could handle at one point or another at different stages in our life. And sometimes
Yeah.
you don't even have that pocket of time that you plan for, but obviously plan for that pocket of time and try to honor it. For the love of everything, try to
Yeah.
honor that time for yourself.
I think, yeah, we could analogize it of like you're going underwater when you're doing this work, when you're really digging, you have to come up for air eventually. And the more often you come up for air, the more like at ease you'll feel about the more balanced you'll feel. But I think there's a certain amount of time you'll be up and not doing anything that you'll like want to do more work. It's just very rare in this day and age that we get a lot of moments like that, especially in adulthood, right? When you're a kid, you're bored a lot. And you're like, you can pour a lot of time and energy into stuff. And it's like, wow, this feels really cool because I can be really productive with working out or music or whatever. When you get to adulthood, it's like you just have so many responsibilities and you need to manage your ability to like come back and do it again and that means planning for stuff that makes you feel good day to day as well as week to week. So I think, yeah, if I were to recap though, I would say step one is communicate, first of all, admit, I guess, that it's happening. Two is communicate to the people that need to know, like the close people in your life and the people maybe in control of some of this stuff that's draining you. Hey, communicate, hey, this is really taking a lot out of me. And if this is going to go much longer, then I need to figure out a way to like get some distance from it. Let people know. And if it's something in your control purely, then maybe just scheduling that, like you're saying, picking up a video game or whatever every now and then. One of the things I was thinking of saying after that though was that, and I kind of missed the thought here, but I forget how exactly I was going to word this. Recognizing that you can periodically overreach, but you can't chronically overreach, and creating a system in which oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm standing
Okay.
perfectly still because I'm
Dang,
listening.
I was like, wow, you really spoke. I was like, I thought I froze because you were so still. Holy crap.
Don't make a
So
move. Don't make a move.
we have to move more than that blink or something. Holy crap. So creating a system in which
Hmm.
you've said this is the bare minimum amount of time that I need. Because here's the thing. When I went to law school, for example, I was told there are going to be nights you pull all-nighters. There are going to be times where you can't even work out because your mind is just going to be going a million. You're going to be so scared and you're going to be studying so much. And I remember going into that and being like, respectfully, screw that. Like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to sacrifice my health for this degree. If it happens, it happens. If I work at something like within a reasonable amount that I think is reasonable and I get the degree, if I work a reasonable amount and then they say that's not good enough, I'll be like, at the end of the day, I guess for me, and this might just be a personal thing, is that if anything demands that I no longer take care of myself, that I don't have the ability to set boundaries, that I don't have time or energy to work out it like ever. Maybe certain periods, maybe I take a little bit of a hit. If it ever becomes a chronic issue, like, oh, yeah, I haven't worked out in a month because this thing that I'm doing, it's gone too far. It's taken over too much of my life. Fitness will always be a little bit of extra work, but if I get to the point in my day or my routine or my life where I don't have even the smallest bit of extra work capacity to do that stuff, then I know that's like my canary in the coal mine. I've gone to no man's land. I can't keep doing this path. I need to go. I need to switch to something else. So that's my canary in the coal mine for when I need to change the direction of my life or make a change anyway.
Yeah. And I want to start to think about, oh, I want to hear your ideas as well, the obvious ones, what you can do when you're, aside from habits, aside from thinking about and framing what to do, aside from all that, aside from just talking about sleeping more, the things that come to mind that I know help for me are
Mhm.
to focus on meditation,
Okay.
to take space from people, to have some massage therapy, body work helps. I'm a big
Like,
believer in sensory deprivation and float tanks because I feel like it helps with
yeah.
sensory overload. I like taking space like that.
Yeah.
And I've talked about stuff like that in other episodes here and probably on YouTube to put it out there. So, oh, and also caffeine, most abused drug, that one hits me hard. So I try my best.
Get
I
away.
literally take breaks from all this stuff. So
I
those
love
are the
that.
things. Journaling
Yeah.
helps a lot. All these
Yours is like
things.
rest and digest. When you get overstimulated, when you get overworked, you're like, oh, I need to give my sympathetic nervous system a break and just kind of chill for a while, create more space, be myself.
Well, I
That's
hope that it works. I have to believe that it does. I have to. It's the same way you could ask yourself for forgiveness for something that you feel like you caused and you were responsible for. And even if you don't believe it, you have to believe that it's good for you.
yeah.
That's how I feel about resting your sympathetic nervous system like that. Like
Yeah.
I have to believe that deep down inside, it's good for my body, it's good for my brain. It's helpful to do these things, even if I emotionally am not invested in it and I don't actually believe it. I think that doing these things are in fact good for you. They're healthy practices to help like reset. And then you can go ahead and start to think your way through it, essentially.
Yeah, I'm curious because you are like very much like a type A, like go 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 type of dude, in my opinion, from what I've seen. So it must have been pretty hard for you to go ahead and adapt to these like methods that you're talking about because these are very antithesis of that. They're very like I disconnect, I mellow out, I focus on myself, I chill. Those things must have been there must have been like a pretty I don't know, was it hard for you to get yourself to do those things at first?
Think so. As long
Yeah.
as I was able to bucket them all into a short period of time, I was fine because I am type A.
You're like, I want to rest as efficiently as possible. Yeah, that's
Doesn't
funny,
work
man.
like that. No,
Yeah,
what will wound up happening, that's what I did the end of last year. And what wound up happening is I've had a really healthy 2025. And
yeah,
all of that time that I took played out favorably. Well, now I'm not utilizing my type A personality to get me through
yeah.
my days for the first half of this year. And I feel really good about it. And guess what? My
Amazing.
outcome is what is still pretty similar to what it should be, more or less.
Yeah. That's
At least I
great,
think it
man. And
is.
you can just, yeah, so you can at least use that track record. You were brave at first and you were like, okay, I'm going to do this, even though it feels like the last thing I want to do. I really want to just get more work done, but I'm going to just tell myself to relax. And then if once it all plays out and you see, oh, yeah, I was about as productive, we did about as well, like you can use that in the future to say, yeah, actually, this is not a bad idea. I need to do this again because I felt better and then I still got the results that I wanted. That's awesome. So you had that moment of courage and it paid off, dividends for years to come. That's cool.
Well, the fear is, and with that knowledge, there has to be a way to continue to bake that stuff in regularly, ideally
Yeah.
before you get burnt out.
Yeah.
The goal is constantly search for better outcomes for your future, find ways to be healthier and more balanced while still pushing for higher heights and or in your goals, whatever they look like.
Yeah.
There's that fear of failure.
Yeah.
It's real. I
Oh yeah.
was on our one of our team calls yesterday, and I was just getting the sense I could completely relate to one of our members here at Muscles by Brussels. And it's just like that fear of failure will wreck you. It won't
Mm.
stop you. However, it will wreck you mentally. Yeah.
You'll just become like a shell of your former self trying to chase something and then be like, why am I even doing this anymore? And then you'll burn out. Yeah, it makes sense. It's interesting because when I know that like how your group of people, like the more type A type of go-getter type of people work. And but I don't necessarily relate that much. I think it's a spectrum because like while you're probably over here, I'm a little bit more over here. I'm a little bit more type B, a little bit more laid back. And if there ever is a week where I have to do go, 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 even if I'm not exhausted, I'm just kind of like, where's the downtime? Where do I get to chill a little bit? And it's interesting to me because I don't have to fight to get myself to relax. I need to get myself fired up sometimes. And so for me, the recharging is often done in like the downtime, but it's more like stimulative, I guess, than yours is. So, like, for instance, I like being surrounded by people that are like close to me. And that helps me recharge. That makes me feel like, wow, I had a lot of like, I've connected a lot with people. Whereas you're like talking to people all day, all the time. So it's probably like, I don't need more of that. Maybe that's my hypothesis anyway. So I'm kind of like, even though I'm connecting with people with work and stuff, I think that my preferred method of recharging a lot of times is socializing. And like even when I play video games, which I do often, I love to play like social video games. I like to play Call of Duty where we're communicating and we're working on a team to do something, you know what I mean? So it's like it's a little less isolating. I get a little bit bored when I'm isolated and I need like feedback from other people. But it's just interesting how it's like similar need, similar scratch your itch being scratched, but just different personality types and how they tend to recharge.
Totally.
I
Any
do want to
other?
try this deprivation thing though. That sounds freaking fun, actually.
It is actually. Danny and I both did it, and she did not enjoy her first experience.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hooked. I'm going to be doing this again and again and again and again. It's so cool. You mean to tell me that I can exist without anyone else around me and in complete silence and darkness and just like float? Okay,
Yeah.
sign me up.
I the notion of it kind of scares me when I first heard about like the float tanks and you can't see anything. I still am a little freaked out by it. I'm not gonna lie. But I've noticed like I just sleep so much better when I have an eye mask on or when I have headphones on. I work out better. So I'm just noticing like dimming one of my senses is like so powerful for changing my mind, my state of being. And I'm like, wow, that's strategically done. That's a pretty powerful thing, and it can induce some pretty good things if you do it, intelligently. So I like it.
Yeah, totally. There's so sleep hygiene. What are your tips for that?
Oh man. I'm probably not the person to ask about this, but because I play video games, sometimes they go a little bit too late. But in terms of trying to make sure that doesn't happen, I guess maybe I am the person to talk about it because I'm tempted to stay up late. Making sure that doesn't happen is the thing that helps me the most is just calculating beforehand. Okay, what time do I have to be up and like functional, and how much sleep do I think I'm gonna need for that to happen? And factoring in, okay, I need to wind down at this time, I need to brush my teeth at this time, I need to be in bed by this time. It's probably gonna take me this long to fall asleep. So I kind of reverse engineer how long or like when I need to start getting ready for bed, when I need to shut the games off, when I need to get off the phone, whatever I'm doing, and just start winding down. So that's my main thing is like, okay, if I know I need 8 hours of sleep and I've got to be up at 8 a.m., okay, I got to be getting ready for bed no later than like 10:30, 11, because then it's going to take me at least until 11:30 or so to get to sleep. And I might wake up a little bit earlier than I expect. So I got to build in some cushion time there. So that's me.
No, that's priority number one is finding a way to turn down and honoring that instead of
Yeah.
procrastinating. That's priority number one. You're actually starting at the starting line. That's perfect. I love it.
Being realistic about how long it's going to take you to do that, because I think sometimes, at least when we first start, you're like, oh yeah, I'll just be out like a light at this time, not having done anything leading up to it, and it just doesn't work like that. You're going to miss out on precious hours of sleep if you just leave it to the last minute and rush everything, and your dental hygiene probably won't be as good and all that stuff. So
I'll chime in with ways to help you stay asleep.
I like
I
that.
like to weighted blankets can be helpful. I found it to keep me in bed. I know that this might be like psychosomatic, probably is, but I feel like when my body is experiencing chronic pain, so I'm lifting hard, or I'm under-recovered or whatever, or maybe I'm actually hurt, the blanket keeps me in bed because I find that I loosen up at night when I'm
Mm,
fully asleep, and then that wakes me up in the middle of the night 'cause I'm in pain. But the blanket soothes
mm.
me and keeps me calm because there's weight on my body, so I'm not able to tense up as much at night. So
Oh,
from that perspective, as an athlete, I feel like it helps. And also it's like someone giving you a hug, which is really nice. As
yeah,
much as it would be nice to spoon with your dog or your partner or with a pillow all night long, sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes you just
yeah,
start flailing around, and having some pressure on you like that, I found to be helpful. Leaving the room a little cooler than you would like before you go to bed, but once you're actually sleeping, it usually winds up keeping you in bed. That's
yeah.
a good idea. Typically, like snacking on something right close to bedtime kind of helps me a little
Okay.
bit get into my sleep cycle. Having like a little snack before bedtime is nice. I find that to be comforting. Having a what if for the middle of the night.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah. So in other words, having a book to read that's by my bedside, having a glass of water to drink if I'm feeling super dehydrated, having a sleep meditation cycle that's near me in case my mind's running a mile a minute and I just can't seem to turn my brain off. Having a different position to turn my body, or a different pillow to sleep on, or a different area to go into, whether it's the floor or a different room or whatever. Like having a what if scenario. If I wake up in the middle of the night and I get in my own head and I'm angry and I'm anxious and I'm ambitious about whatever it is that I'm ready to do once I'm done sleeping,
Hmm.
and I think that I'm just gonna make that decision or to get out of bed, or I'm gonna rest with myself for hours, where's my what if? And those are the kinds of things that I feel like have given me the confidence that I could stay asleep
Hmm.
and stay asleep into the morning long enough.
I
What
love that.
about what about waking up too late and then regretting? How do you
Oh,
focus on that so that
well,
you have a nice healthy
yeah, before we get to that though, I
go
think
ahead.
some of the things you said just now about the like staying asleep stuff, like that
Mm,
jogs some of my memories, which is like the stuff I said about sensory deprivation. Like I got an eye mask, which I love because I'm very sensitive to light. So if somebody gets up earlier than me or something like that, and same thing with earplugs, you can get earplugs too if you know it's going to be noisy in the morning. Honestly, not only does that keep me asleep and less disturbed by things, it also, even if I wake up, I find that I'm less likely to just hop on my phone or start thinking about things because I'm just, whatever it is about being sensory deprived, it just kind of dulls some thoughts for whatever reason, or it just makes you less reactive to the environment. And so you're less, I don't know, able to be stimulated, and I really like those things. Also, cuddling does help. Like what I've been doing is if I wake up at like 4 in the morning, I feel kind of bad, but I'll be like, "Hey, can you cuddle me?" to Mia, because I know that having the weight on my chest like that, like her head on my chest, I can't move for one. I'd feel rude if I grabbed my phone. And also, so I'm kind of just like pinning myself in place. But also, it's kind of nice to have somebody that, loves you right next to you. So I feel like that actually helps me quite a bit with getting back to sleep. So I think those couple of things I would say too. But yeah, as far as getting up too late and regretting it, oof, that's a tough one, man. That's like a systems issue because you're probably not either getting to bed on time or you're not sleeping very well is probably the main thing.
Sort itself out if you're starting to take better
Yeah,
care
because
of and focusing on your sleep hygiene.
right, because like if it happens once or twice, it's like, okay, that's, okay, a little bit of variability you can't control for. Maybe you're a little more tired than you realize. But if it's happening chronically, then you're either not factoring how much sleep you actually need, and so you need to go to bed earlier, or you're not giving yourself enough, like, I don't know, rest throughout the day. You're maybe pushing yourself too hard some other way. I mean, there's just like if it becomes a chronic thing, it's a thing you need to like now change a system around, not just say, oh well, it happened. What can you do? It's too late. That's kind of I guess my first thoughts on that.
I love that one. That's a good one. That's a very good idea, actually. I hadn't thought of
So
that. So, okay, so I think the next thing to focus on is starting to take inventory of your routine. At least for me personally, I feel like that's helpful because if you can't fix something if you don't know what the problem is. So
yeah,
maybe the same way we recommend you keep an eating journal for a couple of days so you can become aware of how much you eat. It's like, oh, but I know that I shouldn't be eating. I know that I don't want to eat these foods, and I know that I want to make changes, and I know that I want to eat this amount of food. And I know that I want to eat healthy. It's like, yes, but do you even know how you're eating right now? Once you start to pay attention to what you're doing, you become aware of what you're doing. You don't have to
yeah,
worry about it being top of mind or thinking your way through it. You tend to make changes once you're aware of what you're doing when you're ready to make a change. And so when you're ready to say, hey, we know what burnout is. This podcast has struck a chord, and you're starting to think to yourself, okay, well, let's admit this to myself. Let's start to look for some support. Let's start to make some changes. And here you are. Okay. The very next thing you do is take a look at, instead of focusing on the outcome, instead of dwelling on or accepting the fact that you have burnout, now start to look at what your day looks like and what you need to start working in and what you need
yeah,
to start doing differently, but not actually try to fix the problem. Take inventory. And
yeah,
I think if you can literally just go throughout your day with a pen and a paper or a screen and a finger or a keyboard or whatever, just start taking inventory of what you're
yeah,
doing, sun up to sundown, then and on a separate journal, if you will, start to think about the things that you regret that you're not doing, or not even. Let's just say you love what you're doing, but you don't love the way that you're feeling. You don't love how it's affecting your health.
yeah,
Start to think about the things that you would do to restore and recharge. So you're on the other
yeah,
side of this thing, so that everything you love to do feels better and the outcome is the same or better. I
yeah,
think if you take, and what would that look like? What would you do? And it's like, how would you give me a walkthrough of what that would look like for you with a
yeah.
client or yourself or whatever?
Yeah, that's a really good recommendation. I think, yeah, kind of, well, yeah, take inventory of what you're doing right now, what your hours are spent doing. Doesn't have to be super fine detail, but like knowing, okay, hour to hour, what am I really spending the majority of my energy doing? And then compare that to a list of maybe or a day plan of like what you think would be what you think would be a realistically balanced day. If I were to say, oh, describe your ideal day, people would just say, oh, I'd be laying on a beach drinking, Mai Tais or whatever. What I really think that's the burnout brain talking. What you really want is to contribute to society and do things, get things done, feel productive, then have some time for you, then have some time with the kids or whatever. You know what I mean? So there's a balanced day in there in your brain somewhere. You just need to bring it out and put it onto paper and say, okay, here's what I'm actually doing. And here's what my ideal balanced day is. How do I make these more similar? You know what I mean? And so I think then it'll start revealing to you, oh, I'm spending a lot of time on this. And, granted, it's very easy in that moment to justify, oh, I need to give a little bit more effort to this. Oh, I could do this stuff later. You're making concessions in your head because you're in that day. I think the more you compare it to that ideal list, you'll know where it's not okay anymore. Like you've been making concessions for long enough. Okay, I really need to move towards this. Like this is my ideal. Why am I not pushing for this? And that's, I mean, that's a way to be process and outcome oriented at the same time, right? Because you're talking about a process, but you're working towards an outcome with that process. So I think that could be the good way of like looking at things realistically, not saying I need to get there tomorrow, but saying, look, now these two things are in front of me and I need to make this one look like this one.
Yeah, exactly. The very first thing that happens the second someone accepts something is they immediately start trying to work on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how are you supposed to argue with yourself or restrain yourself from doing that when clearly it is going to result in some good things, but
Yeah.
maybe not the outcome you're looking for if you don't take a little bit of time to assess and consider the process by again taking inventory. Yeah.
I think the roadblock that most people have is they just jump right to shaming themselves and they think, "Oh, why don't I want this more? Why am I not, why am I so lazy? Why am I so like this or that?" But it's like I've met very few, I would argue nobody in my life. I don't think I really believe in laziness. I think people overexert themselves in some areas of their lives and underexert themselves in others. And sometimes they get caught up in their heads too much. So for instance, somebody with like chronic anxiety spends a lot of time thinking about decisions, so they're exhausted about that. They're not lazy, they're just really spending a lot of time in their own heads getting exhausted by stuff. So yeah, on paper, they're lazy, but everybody cares about something and they're always going to be trying for those things. I just think I don't really believe in laziness. I think people just get hung up on certain things. They get way too dedicated to certain things. And so other things fall by the wayside. They get imbalanced. And then they think, oh, why am I not doing this other stuff? Well, it's not because you don't care about this other stuff. It's because you're either A, afraid of that other stuff and like addressing it and doing something about it, or B, way, way, way too invested in this thing that's taking up the lion's share of your time and energy and afraid to detach from it even a little bit, that fear of failure you're talking about. So I think, yeah, it all comes down to you need to rebalance your priorities and look at what your day actually looks like compared to what it should look like if you wanted to have a balanced existence. Instead of spending 99% of your energy on two or three things in your life that are important, you could be spending 70% of your stuff on that, and then the rest, the 30% that's left, you could be spreading out across other things that you care about that maybe are less important but still important to you. So that helps.
Well, what my hope is that when everyone listens to this, whoever's here still with us is listening to this, that you go out and you find ways to recognize burnout in yourself.
Yeah.
You can take these tips and make some changes. You can reach out to us for support, do the things that you know work for you. And when you're at that point where doing the things isn't going to give you the result you need and you're going to flail, that you take a minute to breathe, pause, and assess so that you have a better process and you can fix your burnout. And I feel like we kind of did. This is, unless there's something else that you wanted to share, I think we did a pretty good job picking this one apart.
Yeah, I liked it. I think we got to some practical stuff. We talked high level stuff. I will just add that like I part of why I love being a coach is helping people break through those barriers and really break that stuff down. When you're in regular life and everybody else is busy, they might be struggling with the same kinds of burnout. You feel like a burden for even asking for help in a lot of these areas. And what's cool about being a coach is that it's like it's guilt free. You've paid this person to help you sort through your life and fix your things. And some people come in expecting that I'm just gonna tell them, hey, you need to work harder. But I'm just like, no, let's get into it. Let's dig through your life and let's see where the extra stuff is and where the unbalanced stuff is. And let's try to rebalance stuff. And it becomes fun. It's like a group project. And you don't have to feel bad about putting that work on me because I literally signed up for it. So I really like that part of being a coach is that it puts me in a unique position to take on this stuff with somebody, sort it out with them and help them feel like they're not in it alone and they don't have to be super high level about everything. They can just come to a call or have a conversation with somebody who's like on that level and then we talk about all that stuff in a very conceptual manner like we are right now, but just applying it to some particular person.
I love it, friends. This is
Yeah.
cool. Well, Why don't you wrap it up and take things home for us?
Well, thanks for being here, guys. Check us out on all the socials. We're at Vegan Proteins and Muscles by Brussels. You know, I love Instagram. I'm on Instagram the most. You can find me at Soyboy Fitness Coaching. And yeah, give us a like, give us a follow, share us with a friend if you have somebody who's suffering from burnout that you think would benefit from this message. And yeah, we'll be in touch.
All right, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. Once again, my name is 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿.
I'm Sawyer.
And we'll talk to you soon.